Hey, Brandon.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you doing? Where are you calling from?
Yeah. Great. Calling from Austin, Texas, in the USA.
Hey, very nice place. So, what's special about Austin that you like?
Wow. We sit right in the middle of the whole United States, and the West Coast is a little pretty. The East Coast is really fast, and the center part of the United States is called the Third Coast, and Austin is a little weird. So we say, "Stay weird." So Austin is an interesting place.
Very interesting description. I guess you've been
Mhm.
asked that before.
Yes.
All right. So, the reason I called you today because you are one of the, as I understand, either a co-founder or one of the partners, or maybe the startup teams. But the company that you are with, I was really curious about. So, I have a few questions.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'll show you what I have on my screen. So first, that's your LinkedIn profile right here.
It's it.
And thanks for taking my invitation to connect.
Absolutely.
So wait, before I get to the company that I have questions about, I just gonna look you up a little bit. That's what I normally do, right?
Sure.
So you were a drilling info manager. So what was that business about? Like, what's your background before you came to Gembah?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you know Austin, you know Austin is full of SaaS-based companies, meaning there's a lot of startups, a lot of companies that do software as a service. And so I came from a large multinational company called Drilling Info. And so Drilling Info democratized oil and gas data around the world, and especially here in Texas. So if you know Texas, you know oil and gas. And so
Right.
Drilling Info was started 20 years ago, and they got their name by really becoming the oil man's friend or the oil person's friend, and they became one of the pioneers in oil and gas data. So yeah, I was there for 3 years and was the manager of the global business development team. So I had a business development team kind of spread out throughout the world. So,
So how did you transition over to Gembah? Is that your friends who started it? Are you a co-founder?
yeah, so it was an interesting connection. Got it connected to Zach. Zach's actually the founder and the team over there through a mutual connection. And had an interview with Zach, and Zach took a risk on me. He said, "Hey, this is not a big corporate. This is a small startup. There's just a few people here." That's Zach there, and Zach took a leap of faith and brought me onto the team. And so we've been working on it here and really making it go.
Cool. That sounds like a nice company you have. Especially I loved the landing page, like the first impression I had, usually it's quite hard to figure out in a few milliseconds like what people do from just their, and yours have it made. And that still gives a few questions, right? What is it exactly? What do you make? And then you say, simple as that, whatever you just read.
That's right. That's right.
Gamma takes your product from concept to market. So this is great. Does that actually mean I give you the drawing or even just describe it to you and then you design and do everything? Like what does it do? Like what's the service about?
Yeah, good question. Right. So, like at the founding of this, Gembah has kind of taken on the shape of becoming a design or innovation engine for you, the seller, so or the company. And the idea would be you to give us your sketches. We go under NDA with people that have a design and that want to create something new. And so uh, the premise is send us your idea, and then we take it with you from concept to reality through design, manufacturing, and building.
Wow. So do you have any design background or Zach does? Like one of you are industrial designers, maybe?
No, but we have a design team here in on the team here at Gembah.
I'm curious, how did the concept came about? Like, so as I understand, Zach is the one who created the concept of the company, right? So
Yes.
how did that happen? If you say he's not a designer himself, let's see
Yeah.
who he
So it
is.
turned in just seeing the need, right? Kind of the old way of doing it, of going and buying a bunch of products online overseas and putting them into different markets is not going to work forever. So there's definitely a need for innovation, new design, new concepts to be out there.
Hmm. So what type of products do you have? Like you probably just started, right? You're a new business. So right now you would take any type of project in, like it could be a dress, it could be I don't know, a sofa, or is
Sure.
there a restriction in terms of categories that you work with?
Yeah, there's no limit really. It really just comes down to, does it make sense for what you're trying to do, right? And we would hopefully be the people that would allow you to find out all of that, all of the economics of it before you put it into production, before you try to sell it. So if it's a cut and sewn piece of material, maybe it does make sense for your market. Maybe you're doing direct to consumer and you can order at a volume that makes sense. Or maybe you are making a sofa and your company's going to start its own direct channel. We can do that as well. There's really no limit. A lot of what we design is under NDA, so we don't share a lot of those with the public market. But I can tell you they're really cool, and I can tell you that there is a lot of innovation out there. One of the key signatures is when somebody brings me an idea, I say, wow, I would buy that. And just do it, design it, get it done, because we want to be your partner in doing that.
So where do you manufacture the designs? Because as I understand, the sample has to be done somewhere. And usually the process with me works like this. I get to my sourcing agent and she gets the factory to make a sample, but it's not the actual factory, somebody in the factory. It's actually a little room where they make just samples. So it's like a completely different department, which could be in any country actually. And then the factory tries to copy that. And so how does your process work? Is there a separate, is the process separate from the manufacturing?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a good question. And you kind of pinpointed maybe even a pain point that can happen. There's a lot of things that can happen there. A lot of translation errors that go into when you try to get an idea from concept to reality. And so what we do is we have a team over there. We have a team based in China. We set up an entity. They're native, and we work with over 400 factories in our network over there. And what we do is when we take the manufacturing ready designs that our team comes up with, we then take them over to our team, and then they go do the sampling for us. So they'll go out to all the different factories based on kind of what the design looks like and find that for you, and we'll get a sample made.
In my experience, I have done both. So I've done products from scratch, from just like a 3D model that some graphic artist does, and then the exported file was wrong format for the factory, and then until we got that done, and that was such a long process. So instead of that difficult first product that I came up with, and it took me like a year to get it actually done, because a few samples came into Canada from China, then I sent it, another one came, and another one, then the Chinese New Year came in, and then the sea shipping and all those things. It took the whole year. So how long does the process take with you when you are developing a new product?
Yeah, we want to move as fast as you do. So the idea would be 3 to 6 months. And I think some of the efficiencies you're talking about there that we're able to build in is that we know exactly what the design needs to look like, from a concept to the 3D modeling, the CAD, the full factory ready designs before we go and start bidding it out. And so there's not a lot of this back and forth. The back and forth happens early on, and that way we get all of that out of the way. We can even print 3D, and that way you can feel it, touch it, make sure the concept, whether it's mechanical or needs to interact in some way, is all taken care of before it goes over to get into the sampling phase. The sampling phase is really just refining materials, refining the inputs that would make it uniquely yours, and so we can get all of that done. I actually, unfortunately, was talking to a friend the other day who was trying to launch a product on their own, and this is one in the public market, and because the designer and the manufacturer went back and forth so many times, it drained their startup money, and they had to do one production run, and that was it. And the company is no longer. So it was unfortunate. That's just the tip of the iceberg of things I've heard so far.
Interesting. You know what I decided to do later? So after it wouldn't work for me, that long process, I thought it's too much work. So instead, I would ship the factory a sample of another product that exists. And then I tell them, okay, well, in that particular case, I was doing purses. So take that purse and now completely replace this material with this type of material. So make it waterproof, and then add this pocket like this in this other purse, and replace this, replace that. So basically just existing product that they can easier, like already they see what's happening. Other than that, because my creation, as a creation I had, there was this one purse I invented. It's going to be a little animal-shaped purse, right? So it just has to be shaped like an animal. But they don't have a sample to work with. So all I told the factory, create an animal-shaped purse. But so they made me something flat that the legs stay like that,
Oh my
and then
goodness. Oh my
they
goodness.
they really really wanted a sample that they can copy. So how do you work with those? You get the samples done in China, right? So how do
That's
you
right.
get the customer to check it and feel it? Do you ship it to the customer? Like, how do I get to approve it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think what you highlighted on is a very great way to do it. We actually use that tactic as well of kind of reverse engineering something that's popular in the market. There's another service. It doesn't have to be always from scratch. It can be just slight iterations or slight changes that you see something in the market that's not patented and is kind of open game. And that's the idea is just finding and iterating and creating new things in the market. So yeah, we do when you partner with us, we go through that sampling process as well. Maybe there's a material that you're not completely satisfied with, and we can go back and forth. We try to limit those when you kind of start the design process from A to Z. We try to limit those up front because it does take some time to get the product back and forth.
That's right. There's this thing though, when you're creating something from scratch, it could become something super innovative that doesn't exist yet. While when you're copying, it's sort of like not such a novelty item anymore. So there's
Sure.
this two choices when I'm Amazon seller. I could either create those innovative products, or I could go with what everyone knows and learns about. So what
Sure.
would you say from a e-commerce seller point of view? Which type of product is easier to sell? Is it that novelty product, but maybe not many people are searching for it yet because they don't know? Or maybe that's something that is like, which one would you go for if you're a
Yeah.
seller?
If I was a seller, and I hope to be soon, because I'm actually going to kind of use, pardon the old phrase, eat my own dog food,
Cool.
and actually start selling as well as you have to have a two-part strategy. And I think it's one you need, especially to keep the sales going. So if it's an iteration strategy, if it's a deconstructing what's out there already in the market, then do that. That's less capitally intensive upfront. You don't have to spend a lot of time with design in that piece and get that going. But then there's this other piece of like something from scratch. And that's going to take a little bit more effort, I think, on the marketing side, because you have to educate your audience. And when you have to educate your audience, it just takes more effort. Not to say that it can be real expensive, because I've seen people do it with not, but you're going to have to do some education. You have to feel comfortable with it, and you have to be ready to attack the market. Is it through Instagram? Is it through some sort of education channel? Am I getting some sort of influencer to start using my product and start educating people on it? How do I get mass appeal? Those are some questions you get to face. So the iteration strategy can be a good first strategy.
It's interesting concept that you guys have, because usually that's the limitation of my sourcing agent who I work with. So I decided to work with sourcing agent instead of directly with factories. I like that ease of communication with her.
Sure.
But so I guess what you're adding is that additional layer of helping me to design that, that animal shaped bag that I don't need to tell the agent, and she's really suffering with that particular component of design.
Right.
So your designers are actually, how does the process work? Could you tell me like something practical? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, from kind of ABCs of the design is designs. The designers are well equipped with the industrial side. So industrial designing, sketching. We even have some clothes artists, people that have done stuff in the footwear industry, and then also on the mechanical and engineering side. So if you think about it, your design is going to come with something on a napkin, something written down somewhere, and you're going to say, this is what I want to build, and here's how it is. And so you'll just kind of dictate all of that information out. The designer kind of absorbs it, asks a lot of questions about the process, and then they'll start sketching, and the sketching goes back and forth. After the sketching goes back and forth, then you can kind of refine it, colors, sewing type, or thread and count, and what does it look like, and then you get into the concepting phase, and then the 3D modeling, and then the rendering, all the way down to what the factory needs. Then we go over and get it kind of that cost of goods sold. That cost of goods sold is everything, all the inputs that go into that unit, and then get it to the place that you need it to be, because that can break you as well, because the landed cost is really what you have to take in consideration. We think of ourselves as a whole supply chain innovator, and so we want to get it to you landed, and then you have to tack on your advertising, your PPC, all of the things that you need to do on your end, all your channels. So we want to get that cost on the supply side right. And once we go from there, you start putting purchase orders through us, and we have set you up your own very, very unique supply chain. The idea would be we kind of do this whole supply chain, where you are, where it gets produced, and how does it travel back and forth quickly. That's kind of the idea.
Supply chain, meaning that includes the shipping
Yes.
and all of that. So the whole service. So it's not only the design part, it's actually with the manufacturing and taking orders and shipping, right?
Yes, everything. Yeah, so we'll work completely from A to Z, all the way to where you need it to go. Do you need it at an FBA facility? Do you need it at do you need it at your own warehouse at your home? Do you need it at, in your garage? Where do you need it? And we'll get it there. And we're completely transparent of all the fees, duties, taxes, tariffs, things, landed costs. We have an import bond as well, so if we need to do that, we can work on that.
That's good because I'm very cost sensitive and I would be worried that I'll add a lot of margin on top of freight forwarding, for example, because I really like to research which one is cheaper or better.
Sure.
So is it okay to replace one of the components or you like to use your established supply chain? Like, for example, my freight forward.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're totally free to use, what you would consider your best option. We like to present you many options because we know those things can change on a dime. So our idea is just how many different things can we get out there to be cost competitive. And so yeah, you can use yours too if you have a good supply chain setup.
Okay. I had this, so I think your company is perfect for the case when I am creating some innovative products. And I really had one in mind to try and run a Kickstarter, because I haven't done one before. And I know it takes a lot of effort. And more likely, the products that succeed are those that are kind of cool and innovative, something new. So I guess that your service is just perfect match for that. Because many Kickstarters that I particularly liked in the past, they either don't deliver on time or they are so behind on the manufacturing and some problems occur and you wait and you wait and you wait and you never get what you paid for.
Yeah, that's right. So Kickstarters are idea people, which is awesome. And it's just a really good innovation engine for bringing ideas down and getting them in front of people. I think where people struggle is they realize a lot of the harder work is making sure to bring that idea into reality. And so it can be more difficult. Oftentimes they don't have experience doing that. So if you don't have any experience doing it, it can be very daunting. And like you mentioned earlier, it took you a year to bring that product to market. And talking about the cost, I think definitely a cost that people have to bring in is the time component, is the time to getting something to market, or having a bad experience on Kickstarter can really set your trajectory off pretty far.
That's right. Yeah, while you were chatting about this, I wrote down something a while ago. Let me check what I had. Yeah. Okay, so you said that you are transparent with the cost and everything. So what is actually the price? Like, it seems to me from the first glance that it's quite expensive service.
Sure.
So is your pricing on the website?
It's not, just because it varies case by case, and I'll tell you where some of the costs can change. Gembah is a very transparent, so we let you know about the factory. You know who they are. We don't hold that a secret like some others. We really want you to be completely open with this entire piece. The things that are tough to calculate are the specific design, depending on how intricate it can be. Like if you're talking about just an item that's plastic molded, you could talk about mold fees and things like that, and that's very subjective from factory to factory. So we don't place it on there in round numbers. What it looks like is a design up front, and that's just a cost associated by hours of how long it takes to do the design. And we can give you a quote ahead of time of saying, hey, this is how many hours this design is going to be. Does it have a mechanical option? Do you have to click it? Is it latched? Does something store in there? Is there electronics in it? Does it need to be cut and sewn and sewn this certain way? So that's why we don't place it, because it's so fungible depending on the design. And then when we get into the bidding process, we wouldn't even be able to tell you. It's like building a house. You don't want to build a house without great blueprints and architecture plans. And so until we can do the design and get the plans, we can't go ship it out. So we don't even know what the cost would be.
That's true, because you will have the framework, then you can go to manufacturer and say, okay, I need that many meters of this and that. Yeah, so it totally approaches the problem. So, but still, are these services more for a beginner seller or more for established seller who will want to give like a whole new line of products to you? Like, what is your goal, like your potential target audience?
Yeah, so we're new, right? And I think this is a new service, and the power hasn't even been unleashed yet. And I think it's an innovation engine for all of e-tail, all of direct-to-consumer, all of people that are coming up with new products. It is scalable from one product to hundreds of products. And so early success we've had with companies that have hundreds of products in their portfolio, and they start giving us those products to find efficiencies in their supply chain. So we've seen that really recently with a larger e-commerce company who has hundreds of SKUs. They've given us about 80 of those SKUs to start managing, and every time they have an idea, they just come straight to us. Idea. So we become your kind of outhouse R&D, and to me, that's scalable in a lot of different ways. One, if you're just one person coming up with an idea, you can come to us and leverage the service, and not have to. Maybe you're not coming up with 4 or 5 products like I was talking to somebody every year. Maybe you come up with one, but then you don't have to hire. You don't have to come up with your own supply chain. You don't have to be on the phone. It doesn't take you away from the things that make you money, which is getting your product out the door and sold.
That's right. Yeah, that's the value in the service. That's true.
Yeah.
My God, I really needed you guys like 4 years ago when I just started my Amazon career. Now I sort of have things established, I guess, and just looking for some like that innovative product that I thought about. Yeah. But for the rest, I feel like I've developed my own processes already. But I'm sure for many people who are listening, especially those who are just beginning to think about new product, is definitely a big help to have a service like that.
Love it. Yeah. I think they could really use it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for chatting with me today. And I actually will tell you one more thing. Let me show you. I have this resources list on my website, which is where I put all kinds of services for sellers. And
fantastic.
So what category you think you would fit in? So because I don't have such a category where it's like design your product, maybe source product in China, maybe that one.
So we sit in the middle there. We could, for sure. And we say design, build, manufacture, deliver. And so that's kind of a service. So wherever you think that would fit.
So probably in both sourcing and shipping, I guess. Right. Yeah, so I also have shipping.
So we're making our own category. That's what you're saying. We're the pioneer.
Yeah, yes, which is the best way to do business.
Right.
So, Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Okay, cool. So I'll add you guys here. Except that you don't offer pricing, so I'll just have to say varies per service, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And do you differentiate like what customers you work with, or you prefer United States customers, or it doesn't really matter?
Doesn't matter. Work in Australia, London, California, New York. I'm all over the place. Berlin. Yeah. So we're everywhere.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks very much. And
thanks.
I'll talk to you soon.